Insurance is typically not something that is exciting, but I think it's going to be exciting today because it's really not about insurance. It's about how to basically protect yourself and to analyze your policies and to learn really a lot about the insurance and kind of the behind the scenes of how some of these things will really impact you, especially as laws have changed, et cetera. So without further ado, let me turn it over to Lee to kind of start the conversation. We're going to kind of pepper both Lee and Matt with questions throughout the presentation, but we'll get it started with you, Lee.
As far as a quick agenda review, we're going to start with an estate tax overview. We're going to then move into strategies for those who do not have either coverage or adequate coverage currently in place to handle the estate tax bill that is eventually coming. There will dovetail into those that have existing coverage with our premium optimization program, which is a tactical strategical management program that dives in and looks at existing programs, picks them apart, and then rebuilds them for the benefit of the family of significant wealth, the insured, to create more alpha for them and their heirs. And then finally, we're going to spend a few minutes on Connelly, which just came down in early June, so about 2 months ago, from the Supreme Court, and how that affects wealth transfer and tax planning for business owners if they have a buy-sell, potentially how it can dovetail and what could be done to potentially fix that.
You know, Lee, I love that word alpha. You know, let's talk about being able to generate value from your conversations with your clients. So can we just kind of give a quick overview of what's happening on the estate tax side? I think a lot of people are pretty familiar with that, but let's give a quick overview.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea because all the ideas are going to tie back into that, and we're in a little unique window here since the TCJA happened. Matt's going to walk us through where we were, where we are, and then what the law says, most importantly, what the law says is going to happen January 1st of 2026.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. So to get to the current situation with regards to the federal estate tax, you have to go back to 2017 and the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, where the lifetime exemption, or the amount that a family or an individual can protect from their estate tax bill, doubled. Went from 5.6 per person to up to 11.1 per person, and then ongoing indexed for inflation, which takes us into today. Today, a single individual can protect $13.6 million from the estate tax. That number is doubled with proper planning for a married couple. And that current estate tax bracket, the top bracket, sits at 40%.
So Greg, thanks for giving us the green light to talk about Connelly leading into the webinar when we were prepping for this. This just came down early June, just so really talking about 90 days ago. It doesn't affect everybody, and it doesn't affect every business owner who has the buy-sell, but it was a surprise. Matt, if you want to walk us through a high level, maybe one or two granular points, because there's a lot of potential business owners on this call or advisors who advise business owners, and it would affect wealth transfer and estate tax planning.
Yeah, certainly. And we'll hit the high points here. So this was a shocking decision. And even in the opinion that was drafted by the Supreme Court, they said they realized that this was going to really affect a lot of buy-sell agreements. It's really, really important to understand. And so I'm going to hit the high points here. So the Connelly brothers owned a building supply company that was worth $3.86 million. And like a lot of businesses, they had a buy-sell agreement, an orderly legal document that said how they were going to dispose of the business or handle certain things with regards to business succession, typically due to death, disablement, or retirement, or the most common things that we see in a buy-sell agreement. And so their particular kind of agreement was called a stock redemption agreement or an entity purchase agreement, which said, hey, in the buy-sell, if one of the brothers passes away, that the buy-sell agreement will force the company to redeem or buy back the stock, the equity, from the deceased party's estate. So very often we'll see this is covered with various forms of insurance. In this case, it was covered by a $3.5 million life insurance policy. And here's the consensus. This $3 million liability is offset by the $3 million asset going to the business. So it's a wash. It doesn't, do anything because, hey, the buy-sell agreement forced you to liquidate this $3 million to pay out the deceased owner. So that's not what happened. And the shocking point is that the IRS came in, audited it, and they said, no, there's no liability here. So when the $3.5 million of tax-free life insurance came into the business, that asset is now worth 5.2. That equity that they're buying out is now worth $5.2 million. So that increased the value of the business in Michael's estate tax return by $2.2 million and cost the family almost $1 million in extra taxation. This is stunning. We've worked on countless buy-sells, funding them with this life insurance. I've never heard an attorney say it was going to work this way. So the long story short here, anyone with an entity purchase or a stock redemption buy-sell that is funded with life insurance needs to take a look at it.
Is there anything that the family could have done differently, thought about differently before this result happened? Obviously, very shocking, as you say, Matt. It's like nobody would have thought the insurance would have increased the value of the business.
Yeah, and so there's various things going on. So typically the entity purchase buy sell agreements used when you have 3 or more business owners, just because it's easier. The life insurance policy that funds these things is owned by the business and the beneficiary is the business. So you only need to have 1 per owner if you have an entity purchase. In this case, there were just 2 owners. They could have moved this $3.5 million of insurance over here to their personal side and owned insurance on each other in what we call a cross purchase arrangement. That would have kept the insurance outside of the business, thereby not inflating the value. So that was an easy thing that could have been done here. They didn't need to buy new insurance. They just had to retitle it. And no one would have thought to do that in their defense, which is why this got all the way up to the Supreme Court. And without getting too deep into it, this is brand new. We're looking at various different options, whether they be trusts, specially designed products to help facilitate when you've got 3, 4, 5 owners. Now all of a sudden you're looking at 64 life insurance policies or something, which Supreme Court admitted that was going to be the result here.
Interesting. We only have about 10 minutes left on our webinar today, and so I think it's a good time to just go into some Q&A.